Hello everyone, welcome to Aussizz Conclave 4.0. This is our fourth series of Conclave. We hope you all are excited about today's session. Now get ready to meet the expert who will guide you today, Mr. Vaibhav Patel. He's a seasoned migration agent, more than 14 years of experience.
Thank you very much, Paras, and welcome everyone. This conclave is going to help you understand all the visas in detail. What we can help you, and in this particular session, which, as I said, we are going to cover a range of topics, which we have more than 40 topics that to cover, and 60 plus migration agents will take part in this. 80 plus education consultants will take part in this, and it's a 5 days event. And all of our expert education agents and migration agents will be guiding you throughout this conclave. Now, as you know, Australia is growing and is coming up as a strong economy. So Australia is definitely looking for a very highly skilled workers. Now there are many ways people can migrate to Australia. So I have divided the overall migration program into two sections. Number one is a temporary visa, which is student visas. Let's start with the temporary one. So, and the other one is a permanent visa. So temporary visas, the first one is a student visa. That is most common ways people generally choose to come to Australia, which is a student visa. If their age is right and if they have a course that they think that will help them in their career. So people generally come in here to study. And there is a large number of students coming to Australia to study. Second one is a visitor visa. Visitor visas has few streams in it, but the most common stream that is used is a tourist stream. But there are other streams like, for example, business visitor stream, family sponsored stream. If you're Australian, if you have an Australian family member, you can generally use a visitor visa in family sponsorship. The other one is a temporary work visa. In this one, there are multiple visas like subclass 407, which is generally sponsored by employer in Australia. Subclass 482, that is also sponsored by an employer in Australia for your particular skills. Subclass 400, that is a short-term temporary work visa that is generally used by businesses to complete the short-term projects, maybe complete some highly specialized work. Subclass 408 visa has multiple streams in it, but generally, let's say the artist coming to perform in Australia or religious worker coming to Australia to complete their projects in terms of religious work, they generally use subclass 408. Subclass 485 visa, which is also part of temporary visa. Generally, people who complete the study in Australia can apply for the subclass 485 visa after they can complete their study. So before you qualify for a subclass 485 visa, you must have studied at least 2 years in Australia on a student visa. Then only you can apply for a subclass 485. Now, there are many changes coming in from 1st of July under 485 visa, including the name of the streams that are available right now are going to change. English criteria has already changed. Age criteria is going to change for certain cohort of the applicants. Now, this is about the temporary visa. Now, let's move to the permanent visa because that is generally the most common focus of the applicants in Australia. Permanent visas, the number one right now is employer sponsorship visas. Now, in employer sponsored visas, there are multiple categories. There are some temporary visas that are included in this one because they lead to a permanent visas. Let's get into these details. So, subclass 482 is a temporary work visa. It's got short-term stream, long-term stream, and labor agreement. Short-term stream, you generally get 2 years visa. Then you work with a company or employer for 2 years, and you can apply for a subclass 186 TRT stream. That is your permanent resident. Or if you're in a medium and long-term stream, then you can get up to 4 years visa to work for your employer, which is a subclass 482. And then again, after you complete 2 years, if your employer is happy to sponsor you, you can also apply for a subclass 186 under TRT. Under 482, the third stream is labor agreement. Labor agreement has two streams, DAMA or company-specific labor agreement stream. So under DAMA or a company-specific labor agreements, you generally get 2 to 4 years visa. Then after working for certain period, 2 years or 3 years, you can apply for a subclass 186 visa under the labor agreement stream, and then that will lead to a permanent visa. So that's why this temporary visa has been included in the permanent category because it eventually leads to a permanent visa. The next visa subclass in employer sponsorship is 186. As I mentioned, and 186 has two streams in it. Number one is 186 TRT stream. It's a pathway through 482 visa. So you have to work 2 to 3 years while holding a 482 visa with your employer, and then your employer can sponsor for 186 TRT stream as explained before. Second one is subclass 186 direct, where if the applicant meets the criteria for a direct entry, like your occupation has to be on a medium and long-term skill list, and also you have to have minimum 3 years of work experience, competent English, etc. Then you can apply for a subclass 186 direct. Now, 186 visa is a permanent visa, so there is no further step required after you get 186. Then you can choose to be a citizen if you want to. Next stream under the employer sponsorship visa is subclass 494. It's got again two streams. One is a direct one and another one is a DAMA. If your occupation is available in general stream, direct stream, you generally use subclass 494 under direct stream. But if your occupation is not available under the general stream, or you might not be meeting the criteria for a direct stream because you need 3 years of work experience in direct stream and you need skills assessment and minimum competent English. However, in DAMA, there are flexibilities because it's a labor agreement. So you might be able to obtain subclass 494 visa with less work experience. So that's why subclass 494 DAMA is also chosen if you don't seem to meet the criteria for a direct entry. Next category is a family visa. In family visas, generally you cover, let's say, partner visas, remaining relative visas, age dependent visas, carer visas, parent visas. So all these visas are covered in those ones in family sponsors, in family visas. The next one is a business visa, which is currently closed. It is going to be replaced by a national innovation visa. Now there is another one which is called global talent visa, and the global talent visa as well. The global talent will be renamed. So it is still on, but it will be renamed under the national innovation visa, and there we have a different streams in it, including global talent, business streams, etc. That is likely to commence from November 2024. The next category is a refugee and asylum seeker and other humanitarian visas, which is more of if you are not safe in your country, like let's say, for example, right now, people from Palestine, or when you saw a crisis in Afghanistan, let's say, the such crisis, people can choose to apply for a refugee visa under this category. Now, the allocation for this financial year, so if you compare it with last financial year, employer sponsorship visas, last financial year, they had total 35,000 allocations. In coming financial year, the total allocation will increase to 36,825. Skill independent visas had 32,100 allocations, which is going to be 30,375. Regional sponsored visas will have 34,000 in this financial year. It will increase and go down to 32,300. So slight decrease. State nominated visas is 31,000 in the current financial year. In the upcoming financial year, it will be 30,400. Business innovation and investment visas had 5,006 and current financial year has 1,900. Global talent independent had 5,000. It has 5,000. Distinguished talent visa also is 300. So there are the categories. These are the categories of each visa. Now, if you see in the new financial year coming up, you will see a better number of visas allocated to a skill categories. So it is, in a way, it's a good news. The total number of visas have not been reduced a lot. It's only reduced by 5,000. So it's not going to affect because it's going to be divided over the other categories as well. So it's not going to affect pretty much any stream. Now, these are the, in this current slide, as you can see that there are total state nomination programs. Which state has been allocated how many numbers in the current financial year? We don't really have the data for upcoming financial year, which is 2024-25. So if you see, Canberra had 190 visa 2025, and for 190 and 491, and so on for other states. If you see overall number of allocations given to all states in this year, it has reduced a little bit. Now, coming into the skill visa categories, so there are 4 categories in the skill visa. Subclass 189, 190, 491, state-sponsored visa, and 491 family sponsorship. How you apply for these skill visas? Number one is you have to obtain a skill assessment. You need to meet the minimum point requirements. Then you need to lodge an EOI or apply for a state nomination, depending on which category you are applying for. And then you wait for your invite. And once you are invited, you lodge the visa. Now, this is just a brief of each state on what is the current criteria. So if you see subclass 190, the current criteria for 190 in New South Wales is your occupation has to be on a New South Wales list. And right now, they're offering pretty much state nomination to all the occupations. However, they are prioritizing ICT, health, related occupations more. And in 190, New South Wales ranks candidates based on their points. And in subclass 491, they have 2 categories. Pathway 1, which is the direct pathway, where your occupation has to be on the list, and you have to be working and living in regional New South Wales for at least 6 months to qualify for Pathway 1. Or pathway 2, where you can simply lodge an EOI and wait for your invite. And if you are ranked and selected, you can apply for a state nomination. 491, with Victoria, subclass 190, we lodge an ROI based on your points, and your selection is generally based on your points, your employment, like whether you're working in your skilled occupation or not, your earnings, and number of years of experience in subclass 190 or 491. It's pretty much the same. So on, if you see, all the other states have different criteria like this. And once you, as I said, once you meet all the states criteria for subclass 190 or 491, you can apply for state nomination with that particular state. And then once you meet the state nomination criteria and you get an approval, you can get this subclass 190 or 491. Now, going back to my previous slide, if you get a subclass 189, it's a direct permanent visa. If you get a subclass 190, it's also a direct permanent visa. If you get a subclass 491 in any of these streams, it's a provisional visa. It's granted for 5 years. You have to live and work in the regional area for at least 3 years. And then you can apply for a subclass 191, and that will be your permanent visa. So this is the difference between 189, 190, and 491. Now, coming back to the next part, which is the temporary graduate visa, because a lot of people are going to graduate soon. And I'm just going to give you a brief, because all these visas are going to cover in later in all this in our conclave, in all the sessions. We have a particular visa. Each visa is covered in particular session. So if you want to know very much in detail, that would be the right session for you if you are looking for that particular visa. So the temporary graduate visa is, as I said, for an international students who have completed study in Australia for 2 years, and that allows you to work, live, and you have unlimited, unrestricted work hours on your subclass 485 visa. You can get the visa from 18 months to up to 4 years. Now they have 2 streams, graduate stream and post-study work stream, but not need to bother much about this one, because these streams are going to be renamed to different streams now, and there are small changes coming in a way in terms of, let's say, age, in terms of the country of passport, in terms of your qualification level. You will have different options. But overall, 485 visa is granted from 18 months to up to 4 years, and for Hong Kong and British nationals, we can also get up to 5 years visa. Now, employer sponsorship visa, I have already covered that, but I will still give you a brief again. So, in employer sponsorship visa, we include subclass 482, subclass 186, direct stream, and the temporary resident transition stream, subclass 494, subclass 407, which is a temporary visa, and DAMA agreement for subclass 482 and 494. Subclass 482 has total 3 stages. It can be granted for up to 4 years, and it can be renewed further if your employer is not happy to sponsor you for a PR, but they really want you to work for them. They might be able to renew it for another 4 years, or whatever period your employer chooses to do so. This visa has total 3 stages. Number 1 is sponsorship, which is a standard business sponsorship. Second one is a nomination, and third one is a visa. In each stage, so first 2 stages, which is sponsorship and nomination, is lodged on behalf of the employer, and the third one is a visa application, which is lodged on behalf of the applicant. Generally, for a subclass 482, you need minimum 2 years of work experience, and for your employer has to be lawfully operating in Australia, and generally, for certain occupations, you might have additional criteria of minimum turnover and minimum number of employees working in the business. Now, generally, under the employer sponsorship visas, these are the steps. Number 1 is we apply for employer to be approved sponsor. Once the employer is approved, so we can apply applications together, but this is the steps that the department will follow. We apply for the sponsorship first. Once the employer is approved for a sponsorship, then they can nominate an occupation and the worker. Once the nomination is approved, then the visa is processed, and once the visa is processed, you get a visa outcome, and if it is approved, you get the visa. Class 186, as I said, is a permanent visa. It can allow you to sponsor employee anywhere in Australia. It doesn't have to be in regional area or any particular area. Same as subclass 482, it is available Australia-wide. It allows you to bring your family as well on a permanent basis along with you. You can get a Medicare, you can apply for the citizenship after you qualify for it. And the only important criteria here is that your age has to be under 45 to qualify for the subclass 186. Certain exemptions are there for applicants who are applying under 186 TRT stream, and that is only available in certain specific situations. Now, there are total 3 streams in it. Number one is the direct entry stream for the applicants who have never worked in Australia, but they have minimum 3 years of work experience, positive skill assessment, and competent English. They can apply for a subclass 186 visa in direct entry stream. If not, then you can go on subclass 482 visa, work for your employer for 2 to 3 years, and then apply for a subclass 186. For a direct entry stream, your occupation must be on a medium and long-term list, whereas for a temporary transition stream, your occupation can be on a short-term stream or a medium and long-term stream. Labor agreement, if both of the above streams are not available for your particular occupation, you can go for a labor agreement. So your employer will have to first apply for a labor agreement. If it is approved, then only they can sponsor for subclass 186 visa. The next visa is subclass 494. Here, your business that is sponsoring has to be located in regional area, and your position that is being sponsored has to be located in regional area as well. The first step is to apply for RCB. The second step is to apply for nomination, and the third step is to apply for the visa. And subclass 494, as I mentioned, is a 5 years visa. You work with your company for at least 3 years, and then you can apply for a subclass 191 visa. So subclass 191 is a pathway from 491 or 494 to a permanent visa. So you must have held either 491 or a 494 visa on for at least 3 years. You must have lived, worked, and studied only in regional area for that 3 years. The taxable income was there. That's why I've kept it there, but it is no longer applicable. So that requirement is no longer there. But I would still recommend everyone to ensure that they earn this much just to be safe. If the requirement changes in future, you don't miss the opportunity. Now, next visa category is a partner visa. In the partner visa, is a part of a family sponsorship visa. So if you have an Australian citizen or a permanent resident partner or eligible New Zealand citizen, either you're married to them or in a de facto relationship, you can apply for a partner visa. Now, partner visa has 2 options. If you're onshore, you can apply for a partner visa subclass 820, and then 2 years later from the date of lodgement of 820, you can apply for subclass 801, and that's a permanent visa. So first, you get a provisional visa. You have to be in relationship with your sponsor or your partner for at least 2 years, and then you can apply for subclass 801, and that's your permanent visa. Now, partner visa, you can prove your relationship on 3 ways. Either you prove that you're in de facto relationship, that means you're living together for at least 12 months. Or if you're not living together for 12 months, but you want to still apply under de facto, you have to register your relationship with relevant state where you're living. And if you're able to register the relationship, you can apply for a partner visa using that relationship. Now, you don't have to be living together for more than 12 months compared to option 1, where you have to be living together for at least 12 months. Option 3 is a legal marriage. So if you have married to each other, you can also use that to apply for a partner visa. Now, permanent category in partner visa 801, you have to be you have to be in the relationship with your sponsor for at least 2 years from the day you lodged an application. You still have a genuine and continuing relationship with your sponsor or your partner, and you are continuing to live together. You have like all your finances together. It's like generally normally how you live with your partner. Now, in partner visa, there is another option which is offshore. So if you are, let's say, if you're offshore and you're married to an Australian citizen, then you can apply for subclass 300 visa, which is if you did not marry, you can apply for subclass 300 visa to marry in Australia. Like there are many cases where people cannot fly, either a Australian partner cannot fly to your country, or you cannot fly to Australia to get married. So that's why people use a subclass 300 visa, which is a prospective marriage visa that allows you to get the visa for 9 months, come to Australia, get married, and then apply for a subclass 820 visa, and then later it is to subclass 801. Another option, if you marry offshore or if you marry outside Australia to your partner, you can apply for a subclass 309 visa. But if you still wish to apply for a partner visa onshore, you can do so. So first apply for a visitor visa, subclass 600. If you don't have a no further stay condition on your visa, then you can apply for a partner visa onshore. If you don't have the no further stay, if you have the no further stay condition, then you cannot apply for this visa onshore. The last option, if you don't qualify for anything, and if you're married to an Australian citizen, you can apply for a subclass 309 from offshore. Wait for the visa. Once the visa is granted, then you can apply. You can come to Australia, and once you come to Australia, you can simply continue to live with your partner. And once you complete 2 years from the day you lodge your partner visa, You can apply for subclass 100. So it's quite similar to 820-801. It's 309-100. Now, moving on to the next part. I've already covered the partner visa offshore, so that's fine. Now, parent visas. In parent visas, there are two major categories: contributory and non-contributory. Contributory visas, generally you have to contribute up to 43,600 per parent to get the visa faster. The processing time is shorter than non-contributory visa, and they're available in both categories, onshore and offshore. So I'll just name them. So subclass 173 is offshore, subclass 143 is offshore, subclass 103 is offshore. So anything that starts with 1 is offshore, and subclass 884 is onshore, subclass 864 is also onshore, and subclass 804 is onshore. The only difference is subclass 173 is quite identical to subclass 884. Subclass 143 is identical to subclass 864, and subclass 103 is identical to subclass 80, except they are onshore offshore. Generally, 173 and 884 is not very practical visa. So there are only two visas that seems to be more practical. It's 143 and 864, because you have to contribute 43,600 per parent and get a PR. And the processing time for your parents is generally 6 years for under these two categories. Or you can apply for subclass 103 or 804. 103 again does not make sense much because it's an offshore visa. You don't get a bridging visa, and the challenge is the processing time is around 30 years. So as you can see, that's why it's not practical. Subclass 804, age parent permanent visa, that is also probably a practical option if you don't have a kind of money that is required for a contributory parent visa, which is almost 100,000 if you want to bring both the parents. Then subclass 804 probably is the best option because it's an onshore visa. Once you lost the visa, you can get a bridging visa A, and your parents can remain in Australia while the application is processed. The processing time is up to 30 years again, like 103, but the advantage here is you get 804 bridging visa that allows you to stay here. Now, these are the processing times. So generally, subclass 143, 173, 864, and 884, which are the contributory parent visas. Once you lodge the application, it's a paper application. So approximately it takes 4 weeks for you to get an acknowledgement. For subclass 143, 173, 864, and 884, the applications which are being processed right now is the applications that are lodged in 2018 sometime. Whereas if you see 103 and 804, applications that are queued from 2010 are being processed right now. So it's for them who have lodged an application in 2010, they might be expecting a visa anytime soon. But it takes a lot of time because the allocation of number of visas to these categories are very less. So that's why it takes a long time. In all the parent visas, the applicant needs to meet the family balance test. That means your parent must have at least 50% of the kids living in Australia on a permanent visa or either a citizen. I've already covered all these visas in detail. And as a part of your parent visa application, you need an assurance of support. That is, you have to give an assurance that the parents will not be claiming any social security payments from the government for during the first 2 years for subclass 103 and 804, and during first 10 years for subclass 173, 143, 804, 864. The next visa, if let's say your parent does not meet the family balance scheme or family balance test, then you can use the subclass 870 visa. This visa allows you to apply for a long-term visa for up to 10 years, but maximum you can get in one go is 5 years. So if you get 3 years visa, you pay $5,000 per parent, and if you get 5 years visa, you pay $10,000 per parent. So, and you can renew it once as well. So maximum you can go is up to 10 years. Now here, the important part is there is no family balance test. So simply you must be an Australian citizen. You must be earning minimum $84,000 to qualify to sponsor your parents for 870 visa. Now, the global talent visa. I have a separate session on this one, so I'm just going to give a brief. Global talent visa is for the people who are very highly talented people. They have international recognition of their skills. They are very prominent in their field. and especially the priority sectors that they have is agriculture, energy, health industries, defense and advanced manufacturing, space, circular economy, digital tech, which includes all the pretty much all the technology part, which is let's say uh, all IT sectors, infrastructure and tourism, financial services and fintech, education. Now, global talent visa will be renamed as I mentioned earlier. The important thing to note is it will be renamed as a national innovation visa, and it will have a set specific stream in it. Most likely, it will change from November 2024.